Saludos a toda la afición de la lucha libre. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante del equipo de Lucha Libre Online. Y tenemos el enorme privilegio de presentarles a nuestro invitado especial en la tarde de hoy, directamente desde Jacksonville, Florida, para el mundo, anteriormente conocido como Elijah Burke, actualmente subcampeón de la televisión de la NWA. Él es The Pope. He is in the house here in Lucha Libre Online. Pope, it is an honor for us to have you here as our guest. How are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing wonderful. It's quite a privilege, if you will, for your boy to be joining you right now on Lucha Libre Online for this spectacular interview that's about to go down. And I got to tell you, man, if the intro and the introduction that you just did is any indication of what's about to be an interview process, then I'm amped for it already. Hell, Rosetta Stone can't get me ready for you, though, as fast as you talk in Spanish. So Pope got to freshen up a little bit.
Well, thank you so much for that, sir. Just wanted to ask you, how did your passion for pro wrestling start? I mean, which was either the match or the wrestler that engaged you enough to do this for the rest of your life?
Well, I think everybody is quite aware that, your boy Pope is an NWA guy. How ironic that is NWA at a young early age with my pops and my brothers. Saturday morning, front row, if you will, front row for us. I mean, I was on the floor sitting beside my dad in this recliner, but we would sit on the floor, man, and we would watch the television airing of NWA and World Class Championship Wrestling on Saturday morning. So Dusty Rhodes, everybody know the American Dream. Dusty Rhodes, for the most part, is the biggest influence on Elijah Burke, on the Pope, and he was one of the main reasons and characters and individuals that drew Pope in to the world of professional wrestling, of course, along with the Horsemen and everybody else that made the NWA what it was in the late 1980s. So
I'll do a brief translation to that, to Spanish. ¿Qué fue aquello que inspiró al Pope a ser luchador? Él iba con su familia y veía todo el producto de la NWA constantemente, sus papás, sus hermanos y todo el mundo juntos como una familia viendo la NWA. Y lo irónico es que Pope actualmente es un NWA guy, es el campeón actual de la televisión de la NWA. ¿Y qué figuras fueron los que le llamaron más la atención como para ingresar a la industria de la lucha libre? Sencillo, gente. The American Dream himself, Dusty Rhodes, The Four Horsemen, entre muchísimas otras figuras lo inspiraron en esto. You were an amateur boxer for quite a while. I mean, that was like your main thing before you signed with WWE. They promoted us 103-1 record in amateur boxing. Was that really the record, or it was 98-1?
I think WWE promoted 102-1. I mean, I could be wrong. And maybe you're right, because I'm sure you've done your research, but sometimes we can't go by Wikipedia because that thing's all screwed up. But to answer your question about Pope's amateur boxing background, the legit record was 98-1. Your boy was trying to get to 100, before I completed that area of my life as far as amateur boxing goes.
So translate that to Spanish. Le pregunto por el récord que tenía de boxeo amateur. El Pope fue un boxeador amateur por mucho tiempo. Le apasionaba lo que hacía. Y tuvo un récord de 98-1. O sea, este hombre venía con un background increíble. And my question for you is, if you were an amateur boxer, extremely successful in what you were doing, I mean, 98-1 is an impressive record, man. Kudos for that. But how did you ended up signing with the WWE? Who was the person responsible for bringing you in?
Well, the personal responsible person, if you will, for bringing Pope in was Pope himself, Elijah Burke himself, rather. I was boxing, doing the amateur boxing, doing the Guns and Hoses events, doing the Tough Man contest around Southern Florida, and all over Florida. So I was only doing that to fulfill a need to entertain. As much as I love competition, which I do love. I don't take much pride or pleasure in possibly injuring someone gravely, might I add, because that has happened. But I don't take any pleasure in hurting my fellow man, my fellow brother, in any facet of life or competition. So I ended up seeing the opportunity for me to go to the first ever WWE tryout camp. And that's what kickstarted me as I went to OVW. I tried out, and that opened the doors for me to go there and earn a contract for WWE.
So, translate that. ¿Quién fue la persona responsable en llevar a Elijah Burke a la WWE? Pues fue Elijah Burke mismo. Fue el mismo Pope quien se abrió las puertas para llegar allá a través del primer campamento o del primer tryout masivo que tuvo la WWE, y eventualmente llegaría a la OVW. Menciona que él no siente ningún tipo de placer al lesionar a sus compañeros y a sus personas o hacerles daño. Entonces, por eso también toma la decisión de ingresar a este interesante mundo de la industria de la lucha libre. So, you mentioned you were on OVW. That was, the original WWE developmental territory for a while, but before you were heading to the main roster, as far as we read, and you can either confirm this or deny this, but they mentioned that you got a pitch to go into the main roster as part of the Spirit Squad. Was that correct?
That is correct. And while myself, well, I won't get into the names because I know you got to follow, but I will say this. The opportunity was presented by Vince McMahon himself. And Vince McMahon told me, along with the other original members of the Spirit Squad, that we were going to make a lot of money because it was his idea. And he was going to push it, obviously, because it was his own very idea, his own creation. Vince got on the plane one day and thought to himself, ha! People hate cheerleaders. I'll get cheerleaders. And so that's what he did. He got some male cheerleaders, and he wanted me to be one of them. And I politely turned it down, as I don't feel like I could have did that role any justice.
So I'll translate that interesting stories to Spanish. Vince McMahon directamente le propone a Elijah Burke, actualmente Pope, ser parte del grupo de Spirit Squad junto con el cast original, porque él algún día se levantó y dijo, la gente odia a los cheerleaders, vamos a hacer un cheerleader. Y Vince McMahon directamente fue quien se lo propuso, quien Pope directamente, con mucho respeto, declinó la oferta porque entendía que no iba a poder hacerle justicia a ese rol que él estaba buscando. Vince intentó impulsar la idea lo más posible, pero Pope no quiso en aquel momento dado. So, after that, you got the opportunity to go in the main roster, and an amateur boxer got paired with a legit MMA fighter, Sylvester Terkay. I mean, that combination could have been unstoppable. So who gave you guys the notification that you were going, to heading into the main roster, and how do you feel at that moment?
Well, actually, man, again, it was a great redeeming moment, so to speak, in following, not taking the Spirit Squad, getting a bunch of heat for turning it down by some of the boys who saw it as squandering an opportunity, for telling Vince McMahon no. And Vince McMahon appreciated the fact that I was open, honest, and was man enough to say, it's not for me. And Vince made sure that he sent me back down to OVW and said, we'll bring you back when we have something for you. Who notified Pope of the pairing with Sylvester Terkay was one Court Bauer of MLW, Major League Wrestling. So he was on the writing team at that time, and he was, along with Dusty Rhodes and maybe even Dave Lagana, they were very integral in that circle of breaking the news and bringing me up and working with me and Sylvester Terkay on a weekly basis.
So I'll do that translation briefly. ¿Cómo Pope llega al main roster? Bueno, Vince McMahon le propone ese acto de rechazar aquella propuesta de ser parte del Spirit Squad le trajo mucho hit backstage en aquel momento dado, tanto de sus compañeros como de los mismos equipos directivos. Y entonces posteriormente ocurre esta oportunidad de subir al main roster y de redimirse junto con Sylvester Terkay, un peleador de MMA. Y quien le da la noticia es nada más y nada menos que es la persona actualmente a cargo de MLW, que se llama Kurt Bauer. En aquel momento dado era parte del equipo creativo de WWE y él fue la persona que directamente estaba trabajando con ellos. After, you worked with Sylvester for a while, they created something pretty interesting in WWE's version of ECW. One of the few good things of that brand, I personally didn't like many of the things they did back then, but you guys created some magic together as the new breed. Who was the person responsible for the idea, and how did Pope got into the equation?
Well, again, Dusty Rhodes, period. Dusty Rhodes, as you guys saw and may have heard prior to going to the ECW brand and branching out with the new breed, Dusty Rhodes is very much a part of that whole equation and Elijah Burke becoming the leader of the new breed and all. I mean, it was just all a lot Dusty and again, some Dave Lagana, and they were trying to find some the villains to the superheroes of sorts, which was the ECW originals. And I was just fortunate enough to be chosen, being that I have always been a great talker, to lead that group into the war with the new breed versus the ECW originals. And I don't know if you're going there, but it ended up taking us to WrestleMania, and that was pretty cool.
I'll translate that to Spanish. En aquel momento dado, la persona encargada de crear este grupo de New Breed y una parte integral de creer y confiar en Elijah Burke, en sus talentos y específicamente su habilidad en el micrófono, fue Dusty Rhodes. El mismo American Dream confió en él, puso las manos en el fuego y eventualmente lo hizo el líder del grupo de New Breed. And that was actually my next question, Pope. Detroit, Michigan, Ford Field, WrestleMania 23, over 80,000 people chanting all of your names, the ECW originals against the New Breed. How, what do you recall of this historic day in your life?
Well, first thing, Pope, take a little back step. It's crazy because that WrestleMania, the whole plan was for Sylvester Terkay and The Undertaker. And Pope was supposed to, obviously, and I had no problem with a young Elijah Burke riding the coattails of Sylvester Terkay to go against The Undertaker. They brought Sylvester Terkay. They brought him in specifically because Undertaker was and is a huge MMA guy. And so Undertaker loved the physicalness, he loved the legitness of the MMA, and he loves to bring that type of wherewithal and create that same type of magic inside the wrestling ring. So you can go ahead and translate that, and then I'll answer your question about WrestleMania.
Thank you for that amazing fact. I didn't know it, so I'll translate that briefly. Sylvester Terkay llega originalmente a WWE porque The Undertaker es quien lo pide. ¿Para qué? Eventualmente WrestleMania 23 originalmente iba a ser Undertaker contra Sylvester Terkay, manejado por Elijah Burke. Entonces Undertaker, siendo un MMA guy, porque le gusta esa parte física y legítima del trabajo, pide a Sylvester y pues eventualmente el plan cambia y no se da esa lucha y entonces ocurre Elijah Burke como parte del New Breed. You can continue now, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Certainly standing out there in WrestleMania, had it been Sylvester Terkay and Undertaker, I wouldn't have mind taking a big boot off the apron or a choke slam. But nonetheless, what I remember about WrestleMania 23, as you already stated, 80,000, legit. It was the second. Well, I may be a little wrong on the numbers. I think it may have actually been more around 78, a little over 78. But whatever the case was, it was the second largest crowd up to that point, only behind WrestleMania 3 of WrestleMania. So it was the second largest crowd, and I had the privilege at 2 years on the roster to already be in front of a plethora, a sea of human beings, and walking out and being in that ring. You can go back and watch the footage. You will see me standing on the apron while action was going on in the ring. My guys are getting beat up, and I'm looking behind me, and I'm just taking it all in. Undertaker told me, take in this moment, take it all in. I remember Shawn Michaels telling me the same thing. You know, a lot of people have worked 20 years in the business, and they've never got to this point. Take it all in, enjoy it. And that's what I did. And that's what I take away from that event. That's what I remember.
I'll translate that to Spanish. Él obviamente no lo hubiese molestado en aquel momento dado recibir un chokeslam o alguna movida de The Undertaker en el apron, pero eventualmente ocurre esta lucha con tan solo 2 años en el main roster. The Pope llega a WrestleMania, más de 80,100 personas en Detroit, en Michigan. Y entonces recuerdo los consejos de personas como el mismo Undertaker y del mismo Shawn Michaels backstage, como que, ok, procésalo, esta es tu oportunidad, disfrútalo, vívelo, hazlo bien. Y más bien en el aspecto personal de Pope, eso es lo más que él recuerda de aquella histórica noche. There's a pretty particular date that I was researching. June 19, 2007. Pope was Chris Benoit's last opponent. What do you recall from that night and working on Chris Benoit, with Chris Benoit in his last match?
Business as usual. That's it. Business as usual. I remember. I mean, I worked him that weekend in Georgia. May have been Columbus, Georgia, but I worked him in Columbus, Georgia, before we got to North Carolina, I believe, for that ECW television event. And I remember him being at the house show in Georgia with Nancy and David, his son, and it was just, everything was normal. I played with not David, but little Daniel. I played with little Daniel, and I talked and laughed and shared some words with Nancy, and Chris Benoit was just Chris Benoit. So that night heading into the event, there was nothing that was really different. It was business as usual.
I'll translate that to Spanish. Elijah Burke en aquel momento fue la última lucha de Chris Benoit en el mes de junio del año 2007. ¿Qué recuerda Elijah de aquella noche en específico? Negocio, trabajo, lo usual. Recuerda haber jugado con el pequeño Daniel aquella noche, hijo de Chris Benoit, por un periodo largo de tiempo, y haber hablado brevemente con Nancy esa noche y luego hacer su trabajo con Chris, hablando, y Chris simplemente era Chris Benoit, simplemente negocio. You work for a while once they moved you to SmackDown with Batista, who was the World Heavyweight Championship, back in 2007 as well. Were there any plans for you to be in that title picture at some point?
Well, I never really moved over to SmackDown. It was just more so of the cross of the brands. There nothing really lasts in WWE as far as brands are concerned. So there's always going to be switching. There's always going to be people appearing on, whatever brand they're quote unquote not supposed to be on. So no, what it was simple. Simply put, that we were having killer matches on the. I was having great matches on the ECW. We were doing good numbers. I was a hated heel. I knew how to get heat, and so I started getting these title matches with Kane and on ECW and Batista on SmackDown and whatnot, and we did so good on SmackDown. We brought that over to ECW and did a rematch, and it was just again the plans were title pictures ECW. That was obviously the plan. Don't know if that was the plan for SmackDown, but I do know I was just serving a purpose that delivered above all expectations when me and Batista went out there and created that magic that people talk about today, that Spear Buster, as it's been called, and we just worked well together. Dave's a good guy. Enjoyed working him.
I'll translate that to Spanish. En aquel momento dado, Elijah Burke trabajó en el title picture de ECW con luchadores como Kane, pero hubo una movida en particular. Él nunca se movió como que oficialmente a SmackDown, pero en esa transición en donde movía luchadores de marca, Pope apareció en SmackDown y se enfrentó a Batista, que en aquel momento dado tenía el campeonato mundial del peso completo. Le preguntó si ese era el plan y él me dice que el plan era que él retara por el campeonato mundial del peso completo de ECW, pero no se habló nada en aquel momento dado the World Heavyweight Championship. You know, after you and WWE parted different ways, I remember you came here to Puerto Rico. You wrestled here for Carlos Colon Company, WWC, and as well for Sabios, IWA. What do you remember about working in Puerto Rico, and how did, working in this territory either help you or change something from your vision about pro wrestling in general?
It changed. I didn't change anything. Hell, it confirmed everything. It just, it confirmed everything. You hear the stories. It was great to come over and to have the opportunity to wrestle for those distinctive organizations. Certainly for Carlos Colon, the legend that he is over in Puerto Rico. I remember myself and Armando Estrada and the Dudley Boys, Team 3D at the time. So pretty cool, man. It was pretty cool. The fans over there are just they love them some wrestling, and it was just a very cool experience at the time for me to be over there and wrestling for another these big promotions in Puerto Rico. So that was great. Under these legendary figures.
I'll translate that to Spanish. El Pope no como que no cambió nada de su visión de la industria, sino que la confirma y la hace más fuerte. Entonces, en aquel momento dado, tuvo la oportunidad de estar en Puerto Rico con Carlos en la empresa WWC, en donde estaban figuras como los Dudley Boys, como Armando Alejandro Estrada, entre muchas otras personas. Y fue una experiencia interesante para él haber pisado Puerto Rico. After that, 2009, you got a tryout match for TNA. You signed with the company, and hell, you, in my opinion, you had the best run in your whole career over there. I mean, hell, AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, even Hulk Hogan. I mean, you were the number one heel at that point in the company, or babyface, depending on which moment you were talking in. How was your specific experience, working with a person like Hulk Hogan? How was working with him?
Well, it's meeting your heroes, meeting the people you grew up watching and idolizing. Obviously, Hulk being the biggest, name in the history of wrestling, and it was everything you could probably imagine it to be. So that was very good. You mentioned the heel, the baby face. I tried to be non-descriptive in my portrayal of Pope, specifically at that time. But, in the business, sometimes, those in charge, they want to go a certain direction. And so, I had to be the bad guy or I had to be the good guy. And we had those twists and turns and whatnot. But, being, teaming with, again, your heroes, the people that you grew up watching, the Hogans and the Sting and Kevin Nash forming our version of the Wolf Pack, and, having confrontations and being attacked by X-Pac and Scott Hall, all these four who are going into the Hall of Fame this year. It was just an unbelievable time. And I agree, it was probably the best time of my career. And I certainly had a lot of fun in TNA.
I'll translate that to Spanish. Él decía que no le gustaba clasificarse ni como babyface ni como heel, simplemente mantenerse en un punto neutral, en donde el personaje fuese el que hablara y no él. Se enfrentó y conoció a todos sus héroes, como lo son Sting, como los Hulk Hogan. Tuve la oportunidad de crear esa nueva versión del Wolfpack junto con Kevin Nash, entre muchísimas otras personas, Kurt Angle, como mencioné anteriormente, AJ Styles, etcétera, etcétera. Y sí, obviamente fue lo que él describe como el punto más alto de su carrera. After that, you appear on different places. You work as a commentator for TNA for a while as well. But We saw you in United Wrestling Network with David Marquez, I believe is his name. And you wrestled their former NWA television champion, Zicky Dice. And I mean, everyone was seeing that match, but I remember that specifically because when it counted 3, your face wasn't like, I'm surprised I won this title. It was like, I told you so. It was about damn time. I deserve this. What was the first thing that got through your mind when you conquered the title you currently hold, the NWA Television Championship?
Well, man, I hate to use this term, but it was business as usual. And what was going through my mind was the same thing that went through my mind when I, did the promo earlier, when I spoke about Zicky Dice and how Zicky does not measure up to Pope. That's just a fact. Sometimes you can be, it's like you just kind of mentioned, it's about the time. Well, when you see so many people that have gotten opportunities that you know for a fact can't hold a candle to you, then that puts a little chip on your shoulder. It kind of pisses you off a little bit more than just having that burning desire or that drive or that commitment. It does something else to you. So when that 1, 2, 3 happened, it was not just it's about D time or I told you so. It was, what the hell did you expect? What else could have happened? I mean, this guy does not measure up to me. And that's not a work, that's a shoot.
I'll translate that interesting story to Spanish. En aquel momento, Pope gana el campeonato de la NWA, de la televisión de la NWA, en un evento de United Wrestling Network, y su oponente era Zicky Dice, quien tenía el título. Y él recuerda, obviamente, business as usual, como él dice, negocio es un negocio. Y antes de eso, él hace una promo dejando claro en donde él dice que Zicky Dice no se compara a The Pope bajo ninguna circunstancia. Zicky Dice acá, The Pope arriba. Entonces, él deja saber eso y él dice que no fue como que una promo, fue algún shoot, es un hecho real, que no se comparaban, y cuando gana el campeonato de la televisión simplemente fue como que, ¿qué diablos esperaban que iba a pasar? Si se los dije, yo soy superior a este caballero. I also want to say something else in Spanish. A todos los amigos que puedan y tengan la oportunidad de donar al centro de caridad de Pope, tiene una entidad benéfica llamada The Love Alive Charity Inc. Ahí pueden ir directamente a hacer una donación a todos los que puedan. No hay donación pequeña, no hay donación grande. Ellos han ayudado muchísimas personas y en estos momentos necesitan de nosotros para poder continuar haciendo sus eventos de manera anual y sus eventos en diferentes momentos del año, todo de manera benéfica. Así que a todo el que pueda, vaya directamente a Love, L-O-V-E, Alive, love-alive.org/donate, y ahí directamente pueden ir a donar a las diferentes actividades que él tiene benéficas para ayudar a muchas personas en el área de Florida específicamente. Pueden seguirlo de igual manera en Instagram como The Black Pope, directamente Instagram @The Black Pope, y de igual manera pueden consumir su producto, además de en sus redes sociales, en la NWA. Ellos tienen su próximo evento, NWA Back to Attack, el domingo 21 de marzo, 4 de la tarde, hora del este, a través de Fight TV, NWA Back to Attack, domingo, 4 de la tarde, hora del este, por Fight TV. And that's actually my next question for you, Pope. What can we expect from you, the NWA Television Championship, at NWA Back to Attack on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Fight TV? I mean, you're the champion. And we've seen the certain announcements. We don't have like the full card of what can we expect, but is the Pope going to be on NWA Back to Attack on Sunday?
Pope will be at NWA Back for the Attack. And all I can tell you to expect is the unexpected. Now, obviously, some announcements have been made. You guys know that we lost the question mark, Josephus, or Joseph. And we're going to do a tribute show for him. So that NWA Back for the Attack, that's going to be a tribute show for our beloved Question Mark, and his partner Aaron Stevens will be challenging Nick Aldis for the NWA title. Also, you guys may have heard one of my nemesis, you know, and I'm not going to let too much out the bag here, but again, old Tyrus has found his way. The former Brodus Clay has found his way to the NWA. And, you know, it's just something about when the two of us, as you guys saw at Impact Wrestling, when we're in the same building, there's always something a brewing. So you have to keep your eyes out and keep it open for that one.
I'll translate that. Pope va a estar este domingo en NWA Back for the Attack. Mis disculpas por esa corrección que tengo que hacer ahora. Pero es en NWA Back for the Attack. Ahí va a estar Pope. Menciona que pues, lamentablemente perdieron a Question Mark hace poco. Nuestras condolencias a la NWA por la pérdida de un gran compañero. Y su compañero Aaron Stevens, anteriormente Damien Sandow en WWE, o Idol Stevens en Puerto Rico, se enfrenta y reta al campeón mundial peso completo de la NWA, Nick Aldis, por el título en un show de tributo al Question Mark directamente. Y lo interesante de esto es que hay una persona que regresó, Chris Adonis o Chris Masters, o llega ya directamente a NWA, Crimson, entre muchas otras personas, pero hay un nombre en particular que él menciona y es su archinémesis o su rival de toda la vida, que es Tyrus, anteriormente conocido como Brodus Clay. Él no quiere dar mucha información, pero todos los fanáticos tienen que conectarse este domingo en NWA Back for the Attack, 4 de la tarde hora del este, a través de Fight TV. De igual manera, The Pope's Point of View, disponible por Spreaker. También pueden buscarlo en YouTube como Pope TV. A todos los promotores, elijahbookings@aol.com, para todos los promotores en Puerto Rico, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, Colombia, Panamá, que quieran contactar los servicios del Pope en calidad de luchador, en calidad de anunciador, en calidad de comentarista, donde usted lo quiera, ahí él va a estar. Simplemente tienen que ir a acercarse directamente a su correo electrónico, y sí, entiendo que ahí pueden conseguirlo. So Pope, once again, it's been more than an honor, sir, for us to have you here as our guest. We will be watching NWA Back for the Attack and covering it to all the Lucha Libre Online audience out there. So we are really excited for this one. What can we expect from you, last but not least? What can we expect from you on this new chapter of NWA's life? Because it's not going to be just an event. It's going to be, after this, we will be seeing NWA Power every Tuesday on Fight TV as well. So what can we expect from the NWA television champion, the Pope?
I want you to understand this. First thing first, before I go into the closing, I want to say thank you for having your boy on Lucha Libre. Of course, Pope's voice is a little parched right now, but don't mind that. I want to thank you also for supporting my charity, the Love Alive charity. I appreciate you contributing and donating to love-alive.org/donate. I thank you for doing that. It means the world to what I'm doing and what my charity is doing to be the change that we wish to see in the world. Go ahead, plug that real quick, and then I'll come with your answer.
Of course, I'll translate that to Spanish. Pope nos agradece por haberle dado la oportunidad de estar aquí hoy, por haber también ayudado a su entidad benéfica. Y lo que tienen que hacerle a ustedes es, vamos a ayudar, vamos a ser la diferencia que nosotros queremos ver en el mundo y permitirle a Pope y a su entidad benéfica ser esa diferencia en el mundo. Lo único que tienen que hacer es ir directamente a love-alive.org, love-alive.org. /donate, y allí directamente podemos contribuir de una y mil maneras. No hay donación pequeña, toda donación es bien recibida, así que por favor vayamos allá y seamos parte de este cambio que queremos ver en el mundo. Simplemente vayan a love-alive.org/donate y ahí podemos ser parte de este cambio en el mundo que queremos ver. Now you can continue, sir.
So I want you to understand, when it comes down to NWA returning to the scene, Pope's going to pull up to the scene, and I'm going to pull up with a gangster lean. And I want you to understand that. So Pope is going to be bringing some class back to the television championship title, because it's going to be around the waist of the most charismatic, pimp-tastic guy that there ever has been in the world of professional wrestling, and that is the Pope. So I want you to know and understand this. Some backs are going to crack. Some livers are going to quiver. some glass gonna be broken, and there will be no stones left unturned, Daddy. Because at the end of the night, and the end of the next night, and the next night, whenever the hour that there is NWA power, you can rest assured that your boy will stand supreme in the middle of the ring, letting the world know, as I've already said, that I am the most charismatic, pimp-tacular, hand-clapping, pimp-tapping, foot-slapping, bringing a tire, always on fire, Pope. That is Elijah Burke. Now take that and try to translate it, Daddy.
Yeah. This is gonna be a tough one. ¿Qué podemos esperar de NWA y su regreso? Y de The Pope, simplemente él va a estar ahí, él va a poner clase y estilo al campeonato de la televisión de la NWA y a toda su programación. ¿Qué podemos esperar? Espaldas quebrantándose, el hígado colapsando, el nudillo rompiéndose, y The Pope haciendo lo mejor que sabe hacer, y es pateándole el trasero a todas las personas que están allí. El Pimptastic, como él dice, fantástico. Este caballero, el luchador más carismático actualmente y su campeón de la televisión. The Pope va a llegar a NWA Power y a NWA Back for the Attack este domingo a las 4 de la tarde, hora del este, por Fight TV, simplemente a ponerle el prestigio que necesitaba el campeonato de la división y la NWA entera. Pope, man, for us, it's been a blast. It's been an honor to have you here as our guest. Always wishing you not luck. You don't need luck. Success in your career. And yeah, let's hope to see you soon in NWA doing what you do best. And that's, as you mentioned, breaking backs and putting some prestige inside the NWA and you know, for the NWA Television Championship. So thank you for your time.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And this has been a blast. And thank you, man, for the wonderful interview and the time to share with the wonderful fans of Lucha Libre Online. I appreciate it so much.
Así que seguimos conectados a Lucha Libre Online. Gracias a todos por estar en sintonía de Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en español.